7 players who will thrive under Tim Walter at Hull City. Hello there and welcome back to the HullCityFanCentral YouTube channel, where today I'm going to be cracking through 7 players who I think will thrive under Walter ball at the MKM Stadium. They'll probably see one of their best seasons that they've had in professional football, and in some players maybe revive their careers so far. So first of all, start off with the main man, the goalkeeper, who will have a definitely good season no matter what, because he'll be on the pitch most likely, and that being Ivor Pandur. So Pandur being a signing from January under Liam Rosenior. Rosenior was one of his main goalkeeping targets to bring in to the MKM Stadium. Brought him in, and then we didn't see any of Ivor Pandur. Adrian Ilajali wanted to see him after putting in a considerable cash consideration to bring over the young Croatian to the MKM Stadium. We didn't see any of Pandur. He saw a few bench appearances, but nothing where we actually saw him fully play. It seems like he will be the upcoming number 1, with the likes of Matt Ingram being less favourable at the moment. He probably will move on. Ryan also maybe become the number 2 keeper, so Pandur will become that number 1 keeper most likely, and if he does, I think he will thrive. Looking at his player stats so far, his long ball accuracy is at 92%, his high claim accuracy is at 96%, his save percentage is at 87%, and then his clean sheets percentage is at 72%. So, judging by those stats, it fits perfectly into the Walter ball style of things, where it's a lot of that high intensity, high pressure, trying to combine both the possession style play that we saw under Rosenior into the more of attacking style of play that Walter really likes to play, that aggression forwards, and using a mixture of the long balls and him being really talented with his feet. It will work brilliantly for Tim Walter to have a full pre-season with Ivor Pandur as the number 1 keeper. It will be will benefit both Pandur and also that whole defensive line as a total. So Ivor Pandur is a player who I think will improve and thrive under Tim Walter. Next is a player that you may not think can improve anymore, but I'm here to say that if he does stay at Hull City, he will have the season of his life under Tim Walter, that being Jacob Greaves. So Greaves, it seems almost certainly he will be off out the door. If he does stay, I think that it will be a season not to forget, a season to remember for Jacob Greaves, as his style of play perfectly fits into the Walter ball. It's almost like they were both made for each other. We'll look at some of the stats from last season, then I'll go on to the fact why Jacob Greaves will thrive in Walter ball. So last season he played 43 matches in the Championship for Hull City, grabbing 2 goals, both of them in that Huddersfield game. If you know, you know. 4 assists in total, and an average FootMob match rating of a 7.28, grabbing him a spot in the Championship team of the season. So, a season of dreams for Jacob Greaves he's just come off the back of, and then to put that into the style of play for Tim Walter, he likes his left-sided centre-back to get forward, get involved in the attack, and really be a driving force from the defence through the midfield into the attack. His left-sided centre-backs have been known to be contributing towards the attacking effort, grabbing goals and assists, and being a part of that playmaking situation. This is what Jacob Greaves does. This is what he brings to the game. We've seen it so many times when he's got Pirlo-esque runs through the midfield, where he's taken the ball from near enough the byline all the way through to the opposite end of the field, grabbing shots, grabbing assists, and this is really where some of his assists came from in the past few seasons. So if he does stay at the MKM Stadium, and if he doesn't go off to West Ham, which is looking likely, as he's looking more likely that he's going to be given guaranteed game time there at a Premier League side in West Ham. But if he does stay at the MKM Stadium, it will be a season for the ages, not only for Jacob Greaves, but I think for any centre-back or defensive player in the Championship. It will certainly be a season of the dreams. Ozan Tufan just seems to be improving and improving at the MKM Stadium, and I think that this will continue through next season. I think that the way that he will work within this new Tim Walter setup will increase his gameplay, increase what he produces to the team, and I think really he'll have another stellar season if he can remain fit. That being a big question, but with a fantastic preseason underway, and with him not having to worry about any sort of summer commitments with the Turkish international side, I think that he will have a fantastic preseason and also season in black and amber. His stats from last season, 37 matches in the Championship, 10 goals, just shy of Philogene's golden boot for the Tigers, and then 2 assists. His match rating wasn't quite as high as maybe it should have been, with having a few lackluster performances, but on the most part, consistent at 6.9 average match rating over on FootMob. And then we're looking at some of the player trait stats. His goals, an 89% goal rate compared to other attacking midfielders and wingers. Aerial duels, 85%, and then chances created, a 62% on that, and shots attempted, a 61%. So really seems to be that player that can create stuff. We've seen it time and time again for City, where he's created options out of nowhere. It's really been that sort of, it just needs that one little spark and then he's off doing something. He's creating some magic. We saw with his goal of the season, what a shot that was. Came from nowhere, outside the edge of the box, curving shot. Top bins, ricketing off the crossbar as well. Fantastic. So we know that he can create options out of nowhere, and that's kind of playing into the Volta style of play, where the ball, we pick up the ball, we're building a little bit of possession. We may lose the ball then, but then Tufan can quickly snap it back up, or another player like a Seri or somebody can snap the ball back up, give it to Tufan, and he can go on and maybe a little bit of a run or play a few passes, and then he can get himself into a creative area and take some shots, score some goals, grab some assists. I can highly see his assist count going up next season, along with his goals count. I think this will be a fantastic season for Ozan Tufan, bringing his confidence higher as well as a result of it. And that's one of the big things with Tufan, is he plays well if he feels confident and if he feels happy. And I think that he will have a fantastic season with his confidence up here and his happiness level even above it, with grabbing goals and assists. And his fellow Turkish teammate will have another season for the ages. We saw Abdelkahar in the second half of last season, since we signed him in January. What a player he was. Really making contentions, and he was putting his name in a half a season stretch into the Player of the Season awards. Of course, not quite enough game time for him to really cast himself there, and I think maybe his lack of goals did contribute to not being so strong of a favour. But for a 24-year-old playing 16 matches in the Championship and producing what he did, it was fantastic. He's increased his market value, which is a good thing for the club's back-end system. Only contributing with 2 assists, but his average match rating was higher than the likes of Tufan, with a 6.97 average match rating over on FootMob. We'll look at some of the other player trait stats, of course, compared to attacking midfielders and wingers, as he played a lot of times out on the wide, which is maybe not his preferred position. Touches are 76% above the average player, 67% defensive action, and then a 74% on aerial duels won. Got to think, he's small, but he's winning 74% of the average aerial duels that he goes for, and that's compared to other players that are attacking midfielder and wingers, which probably will have the heighter advantage on him. So it's fantastic that. What I think this season will really come down to is if Abdelkahar takes his chances. He just needs to get the shots away, and I'm sure the goals will follow. I think maybe last season with his role out wide, he was maybe a bit too scared to get the shots away, and maybe couldn't in certain scenarios where he stuck out on the wing and he couldn't get into that sort of central role that he likes to take his shots from, which we saw at his previous clubs over in Turkey. So I think that really, if Volta plays his cards right with Omar, with the fantastic player that we do have in Abdelkahar on a permanent transfer, let's not forget that, I think that it will be a fantastic season for Abdesh. If he can get that centralised role down, maybe if he plays a game out on the wing and then comes inside for a game, or even if with that sort of that total football-esque style of play that Volta has adapted into his style of play, if we can get Abdelkahar into the centre at certain points so he can take the shots on and produce some nice moments, I think Omar will see even more of him, and we'll see him in an even better capacity than we have done already. And it has been a fantastic time for him so far at the MKM Stadium. So why not make it a full season worth of Abdelkahar dreams? One of the key things reported through the Tim Walter announcement was the fact that he has had brilliant track record with youth players. He, of course, over his time at Bayern Munich's second team, helping shape a lot of young players over there, and then really it's been a track record through his managerial career. I don't see that changing at the MKM Stadium, and I think this one person will thrive the most, and I think we will see the best from the next George Best, being Harry Vaughan. So Harry Vaughan, he had a little bit of a lacklustre last season, only grabbing 8 appearances in the Championship for Hull City, grabbing no goals, no assists, an average match rating of a 6.16. Very, very low on the scale there. After having an impressive debut this season beforehand with a few appearances towards the back end of the season, and really seeming like the next big thing coming into this next season. I think that the signings didn't help him after sort of getting pushed back in the rankings of favourable players, and then really the management on him wasn't the best. I'm gonna admit it. The management on Harry Vaughan last season wasn't the best. He was forced onto the bench when he knew that he wasn't going to play, or if he was going to play, it would be like a few minutes stint at the end of the game. He needed either the time in the 21s, or if we knew from the off that he wasn't going to get the game time last season, give him a full season out on loan somewhere, rather than that 6-month stint that he got in the second half of the season. And he didn't get too much game time there as well, because the track record of the first half of the season where we didn't trust him, that feeds into the loan club where they won't trust him at the start, and didn't really excel too far over at Bristol Rovers. So, what will Walter provide to Harry Vaughan? A lot of things. I think the opportunities is a big thing. Maybe a pre-season where Harry Vaughan can showcase to Tim Walter what he's got. As Walter said, he's coming in with a blank slate. He's not making any preconceived choices on anyone. He's watched videos and stuff and watched tape on all of the players and knows their style of play. But he's not making any preconceived things. It's a blank start. It's a fresh start for all of the players. And Harry Vaughan, I think, will be one of the players that will take that chance and take that opportunity into leaps and bounds. Being only 20 years old, he is still very, very young and got a lot to improve on, but I think this season will be one of them seasons where we do see a lot of improvement in Harry Vaughan's game. Whether it is him going out on loan for the first half of the season and then we see what happens there and he can come back and then provide in that final 6-month stretch where he can maybe produce something and help Hull City propel up the table no matter what the position is at the end of the season, I'm sure Harry Vaughan will have a fantastic time. And I think that really the shot creating aspect that he provides, where he can just take shots on, he doesn't have a lot to prove, so he can just take a shot from wherever he wants, and not wherever he wants, but take the shots that he wants to and that he needs to. And I think that sort of not reckless nature, but that sort of free will really help into the Tim Walter aspect of the playing style. And I think that Harry Vaughan, he will improve and thrive under Tim Walter, especially being a young player, and Walter is known to nurture and also enhance the young players in his squads. Another one that's almost a guarantee, if he does stay at the MKM Stadium, Jaden Philogene will have another fantastic season under Tim Walter. So last season under Rosinia, he played 32 matches in the Championship, grabbing 12 goals and 6 assists. Of course, a little bit of an injury situation halfway through the season. It seemed to affect him a little bit towards the end of the season. We didn't see the best of him. But, I mean, we'll go through his player trait stats comparing himself to attacking midfielders and wingers, and we can clearly say that he is one of the best among that field. A 99% shot attempts, an 85% rate on goals, defensive action 86%, and touches an 84%. I want to talk about the defensive and attacking attributes that Philogene brings. We saw last season he wasn't afraid to get back and to help on the defensive action for Hull City. He got so many times, he got himself back, got helped in the defensive action, then laid off balls to maybe Carvalho or Tufan to help him then propel up that left side of the pitch, propel up the right side of the pitch, no matter where he was playing, and then help on the counter-attacking charge with Hull City. And this is one of the key things under Walter Ball. As I said before, the total football-esque play, where no player is really tied down to a position. You can just freely move and play. I think that will help not only Philogene, but the team as a whole. To have a player like that who has an 89% defensive action rate across other attacking midfielders and wingers, to get him back into their defensive line, to make it a 5 or a 6 back at points when it's needed, especially against some of the higher pressing teams that will face this next season. I think that this will be a very, very good situation for Philogene and also Tim Walter's Hull City side. It's just a case of whether we can keep hold of him. I think that Philogene is maybe a little bit more likely to stay rather than Greaves at the moment. But of course, we'll keep an update on that over the entire summer process. Make sure you stay tuned on the channel to hear all about that. But I think that if Philogene does stay and does really take a shining to the Walter style of play, it will improve not only attacking-wise for him, but also his defensive attributes, which both things will increase that market value even more than it is. And it's currently around about the 7 million mark. I think that we could probably see that increase even higher with this next season under Tim Walter. And the 7th man on our list is Oscar Estupiñán. Of course, Estupiñán is currently out on loan until December over in the Brazilian Serie A 2024 league, grabbing 3 matches over there this season and 1 assist in the process. I believe those stats are wrong, actually. I think he's got a few more appearances and also got quite a few more goals. I think he's got a hat-trick in one of the games, so I think those stats are actually a little bit wrong. But the 27-year-old had an impressive start to his time at Hull City just 2 seasons ago. Really thriving in that Shotter Arvelazad era, where he was that pinpoint striker, that pinpoint target man, the man who can just tap in balls, a real tap-in merchant, if you want to call it that, the Haaland-esque player, the Harry Kane-esque player, where they just need to get that final touch on the ball. If a ball's coming into the area, they'll probably convert it into the back of the net. 12 goals, I think he got in that first season for Hull City, and at the start of the season, really, where he grabbed, I think, maybe even all 12 of them. In that first sort of couple of months, he grabbed Player of the Month awards and stuff like that, and really thrived. It wasn't until Rosinia came in and really changed up the style of play and really changed up what he wanted from his attacking line that Oscar Estupiñán fell out of favour, not only with Rosinia, but a bit with the club, as we didn't see the best of him, and we saw teams coping with Estupiñán in that new Hull City format. But his time out on loan at FC Metz and currently at Club Bahia over in Brazil. I think that it will really be a shining if he comes back to the MKM Stadium, which it's heavily rumoured that he will do. I think that Hull City will terminate his loan and give him a full pre-season under Tim Walter, and I think that he will be one, if not the man up top, depending of course if we get the Delap move in. But Oscar Estupiñán, he will have a season of the ages, really crabbing goals. We know Walter likes to have his goals come from all over the pitch, but it'll be stupid not to say that Oscar Estupiñán will grab the goals, especially with the deliveries from the likes of Tufan, Abdelkahar, Jaden Philogene, and whoever else we can bring in throughout this summer. It will be the pinpoint target man, Oscar Estupiñán, which will convert them goals and really increase his stats up. Aerial duels won across other forwards. It's a 96%. Defensive action is a 91%. Similar to Harry Kane, if you want to talk about it in that situation, where he does sometimes sit a little bit deeper and help through with the defensive action, which then produces that engulfing attack where the wingers and the attacking midfielders can really go round and then swarm in behind the defensive line. and help take over and really produce some goals. And Oscar Estupiñán does that fantastically. We saw that in little glimpses under Shota Arveladze, and I think they will thrive even more under Tim Walter. So let me know who else you think will thrive under Tim Walter. If you disagree or agree with any of my choices, let me know down in the comments. Of course, stay tuned on the channel as I will keep you up to date on everything Hull City throughout this summer, as we are looking forward to pre-season fixtures being announced, the actual fixtures for next season being announced in 2 weeks' time, and then, of course, all of the transfer goodness this summer as Tim Walter looks to shape his Hull City side for a promotion push in this upcoming season. So I'll see you in the next video. Up the Tigers!